Hi, Tammy here from Salsa Babies. We're going to talk about taking your little one out to the trail for a hike or up some steeper hills, if that's what you're into. We know sometimes people before they had their little one were really into, taking it off the beaten path maybe a little bit into rougher terrain. So we want to talk about how to make sure that we're doing that safely so that you can still enjoy the activities that you like, keeping your body and your baby safe. So right off the bat, before you even leave the house, making sure that you're dressed lightly, you're considering the weather, taking those factors into consideration, making sure that you're wearing proper footwear so that your feet are nicely supported, your ankles are nicely supported, and that you have proper grip on the bottom. Because we want to make sure that, before you even leave the house, you are safe and prepared to hit those trails. We also have to remember that we're still in that postpartum recovery period, and that part of having that proper footwear is making sure the arches are supported and that those joints and those ligaments have the support that they need to keep our footing sure when we're on the trails or on the hills, depending on kind of what path you're taking. Also, before you even leave the house, making sure that you're planning the right route. So there may be trails that you loved to hit before you had your baby that are rough, that are rocky, that have lots of bumps and hills and ups and downs. Maybe not the safest anymore, or at least right now while your little one is very little. Because the last thing that you want is to pick a route where you have nothing to grip onto, that the terrain is really bumpy and you can't get that sure footing that you need, and then you're falling and hurting yourself, or worse, you're falling and hurting your little one. So we want to make sure that you pick the right route for where you are right now, knowing that down the road, as your aerobic level changes, or as you're not baby wearing so much anymore, you may be able to go back to those trails that you loved before. So let's hit the hill and see how we can make sure we keep our bodies safe. So now we've picked our route, we know where we're gonna hike, but we've encountered this hill and we wanna make sure that we can get up this hill safely. And safely in terms of obviously this is pretty smooth, we don't have to worry too much about tripping and falling and having slippy spots, but there are other safety things that we need to keep in mind. So one of them is, as we're coming up the hill, we want to make sure that our knee lands over top of our ankle, possibly, let's say, before baby wearing, before our postpartum recovery period. We might have had the inclination to sort of dig the toe in and push the knee forward. We want to keep in mind that the ligaments and the tendons are possibly still lax from being pregnant, and that when we let the knee come past the ankle like that, now we're relying on those ligaments and tendons to do big stretches in order to support the weight of our upper body, which, while we're baby wearing, is even heavier than it would have been otherwise. So what we want to do is make sure that we keep the knee over top of the ankle so we can use the bones and the muscles to support all of this weight. Make sure that we're keeping our foot nice and planted, again, not digging in with the toe, and keep the back foot planted as much as possible as well. We also want to keep the core muscles engaged a little bit so we can stand up nice and tall, support the low back, keep the shoulders back. Avoid doing the hunch because you have this extra weight of baby on the front that's going to start to pull you down. So we want to make sure that we're standing up nice and tall. So as we come up the hill, then we might get to the point where we're like, okay, we're done, we can come down. And we need to, again, think about how are we going to get down this hill safely? Maybe in the past we would just run full tilt down. Not exactly the safest while baby wearing because it's going to be bouncy for them, it's going to be jarring for your joints, and the hazard of tripping is pretty high. So what we want to do is turn sideways so we can use the outside edge of the foot to help support us as we come down. Try to avoid locking the knee or hyperextending the knee as you come down. Keep the knees nice and soft so again we can use the muscles to help us down the hill. If you have one or both hips that are tender or sore, you can always stop part way if it's safe to do so and turn the opposite direction so you let your body be a little bit more balanced as you move down the hill. Keep yourself safe and have fun while you're outside.